All right, this is De Bello Gallico 1:5, so book 1, chapter 5. Excuse me. Orgetorix just died. The Helvetii were planning on making a move on the rest of Gaul. In the 5th paragraph, the 5th chapter, we'll learn that his death has not really put any sort of dent in the plans of the Helvetii. They're still going to march out, conquer their neighbors, hopefully. Right. So let's look at the first sentence. Post eos mortem nihilo minus Helvetii id quod constituerant facere conantor ut effinibus suis exeant. Alright, let's read from left to right. It's a lot easier to do that with Caesar than with the Aeneid. So start with post. Post is a preposition. Anytime you see a preposition, you're always looking for the word it goes with. Post takes an accusative, so we don't have to go far to get our accusative mortem. So between post and mortem, that's a prepositional phrase, and those all go together. Eius is the word is-ea-id. These words are by many, by me, called genius dati words, Geniusdati. Hic, haec, hoc, ille, illa, allude, and is-ea-id have basically normal endings except for the genitive and the dative singular. The genitive singular is ius and the dative singular is I. So if you want to say of this person, you say huius, of that person, ilius, and just of him or of her, you say eius. And that's the genitive for those words. So eius is really the word is-ea-id. So after of him death, after the death of him, and of course eius refers back to Orgetorix. Nihilo minus, the book tells you this goes together. Minus means less, and nihilo is an ablative. It's an ablative of degree of difference. Less by none, by nothing. And in English we say nevertheless, which is like never less. So in Latin you say less by none. Nevertheless, after his death, Helvetii id quod constituerant. Now, in prose, unlike the Aeneid, which is a little bit more difficult, verbs are like punctuation. The Romans themselves wouldn't have had punctuation. The verbs come at the end of your clause. So it's always nice when you get to a verb to kind of stop and think of that as either a comma or a period, and just translate to there. So the Helvetii, which are the Helvetians, id quod constituerant. Id quod is a phrase that we'll see fairly often. It means the thing which, it which. Helvetii, the thing which constituerant. First, notice there's that U and then erant. U tells us that it's the perfect stem. U's are vowels that we often see with perfects. And then erant, on the perfect stem, there's eram, eras, erat. So this must be a pluperfect verb. Constituo means to decide, like the Constitution or the laws upon which everyone decided. They're standing together. The thing which they had decided. Okay, and it doesn't make sense yet, but we haven't finished our sentence. So we're still going to read from left to right. Facere conantor. Well, there's our next verb, so we can stop there. Conor, conari is deponent. So conantor has a passive ending, but is really active in meaning. Facere is a simple infinitive. Conantor is present tense, and the book will tell you this is a historical present. Especially since we just had that pluperfect verb, to change the tense so suddenly, it's important to take a note of that and make sure that you see that he's changing his tense here. They try to do. So Helvetii, the thing which they had decided, they try to do. So they try to do the thing which they had decided previously, which is to sort of, well, he's going to explain it. Ut, that, E finibus suis exeant. Again, e is a preposition. Anytime you see a preposition, you're looking for the thing it goes with. E is always followed by ablative. Motion away is always ablative. E finibus suis, out of their own borders, exeant, that they might go out. Eant is the subjunctive of eunt, which is they go. It's subjunctive because of the ut. It's a substantive clause of purpose. Basically, it describes id. What did they decide that they should go out from their own borders? So x, we really have two x's. E finibus suis is one x, and then the x that is the prefix of the verb exeant. Okay, after his death, nevertheless, the Helvetii tried to do the thing which they had decided, that is, that they go out of their own borders. Ubi iam se ad eam rem partos esse arbitrari sunt, opida sua omnia numero ad duodecem, vincos ad quadringentos, reliqua privata aedificia incendunt. All right. Again, you don't have to take the whole sentence at once. You kind of go from verb to verb. Ubi iam se ad eam rem paratos esse arbitrari sunt. There we go. Ubi iam, when now. Se ad eam rem. Ad is a preposition. Ad always takes an accusative, so it goes with eam and rem. Paratos esse arbitrari sunt. Arbitrary, means to consider or to think, and it's deponent. So arbitrari sunt looks like perfect passive, but because it's deponent, it's just perfect deponent. It's going to be active. When now they thought, or they considered, and any verb of thinking or considering is going to introduce an indirect statement. So the subject's accusative and the verb form's infinitive. Now I can get the rest of the sentence. When they thought se is accusative, and it's the subject of our indirect statement. They thought that they themselves, ad eam rem, the book will tell you, for this undertaking. Remember, race means thing, but you always want to sort of define it better in your translation. Not for this thing, but for this undertaking, for this business, for this affair. Paratos esse. So essays are infinitive. When they thought themselves to be prepared, when they thought that they were prepared for this undertaking. So se is the subject of the indirect statement, and esse, or you could even say paratos esse, is the verb, that they were prepared. So what did they do when they thought they were prepared? Opida sua omnia. An oppidum is a town, and that's an important word to know because it's neuter. When you make it plural, it's oppida. Sua is their own, and then omnia means all. So all their own towns. Numero ad duodecem. Numero is an ablative, so by number about 12. We saw ad as about 2 when they were talking about how many people came to Orgetorix's trial. About, I think it was like 10 or 20,000 people, some outrageous number. So by number, it's an ablative of respect or specification. So 12 towns, all of them. Vicos ad quadrigentos. A vicos is a small town, like a village or a hamlet. Odd is the same odd. About quadrigentos is 400. So 12 towns and 400 villages. Reliqua privata aedificia. Reliqua means the remaining or the rest. The remaining private buildings. Again, that's that neuter plural a. A building is an aedificium. So buildings is aedificia. That's the neuter plural. All the remaining buildings incendunt, they burn. So now we get what they do. So when they decided that they were prepared for the undertaking, they burned all their own towns by number about 12. And then we take our verb again. They burned the villages, about 400, and the rest of the private buildings. This is an example of a syndeton. You would expect there to be a connecting word, right? They burned their towns and their villages and their buildings, but there's nothing. A syndeton is the lack of connecting words. It just says they burned towns, villages, buildings. There's no connection. Frumentum omne praeter quod is what I have written down, but the book has praeter quam secum potaturi erant. So there's a verb, we can stop. Frumentum is grain, and omne is the neuter form of omnis. So it describes the frumentum. Omne is the singular of omnia, which we saw up in Opida sua omnia. So all the grain. Praeter always means an idea of like going past or beyond. So praeter quam means beyond which. Secum, of course, is really cum se, with themselves. Portaturi, that you are, tells us it's really got a future idea. And erant, they were. So beyond which they were going to carry with them. And that going to carry is the future part of the portaturi. It's a future active participle. And we still don't know what they do with it. That's just a little aside. All the grain beyond which they were going to carry with them. Comburunt. Okay, well they burn it too. It's like the word combust. They burn. Ut. This is kind of a crazy sentence. Domum reditionis spe sublata paratiores ad omnia pericula subeunda essent. Okay, well, ut starts a purpose clause, so this whole thing is why they're burning everything. They're burning their homes and their towns and the food, which they're not going to be able to carry. Okay, but we're going to read left to right, and then after we kind of get the sense of all the words, we can put it together in a better translation. So ut is a purpose, that. Domum is accusative, and it's place to which. Remember, accusatives are always direction toward something. Ablatives are always direction away. The word domum never takes a preposition. You would say ad scholam, to school, or ad bibliothecam, to the library. But you never say ad domum. And it's the same in English. We say to school, to the library, but you don't say I'm going to home. You just say I'm going home. It's the same in Latin. So domum really means to home. Reditionis is genitive. It's that is of the third declension. So of returning. It's really red, which is back. And then the it is the going part. It's the eo ire. And then tion is the noun ending of going back. Spe sublata. It's an ablative absolute. Space is hope, so spe is the ablative of hope. And sublata means lots of things. In your book, it would keep listing them out. It's tolo, tolere, sublati, sublata? That's not right. I don't know the principal parts. But sublata means a lot of things. I had to go a few definitions in to get destroy. Ablative absolutes are a noun and a participle in the ablative. So spe is our noun, sublata is our participle, with the noun having been verbed. So with the hope having been destroyed. And we're going to take domum and reditionis with hope. It's the hope of returning, and then domum again, to home. Ablative absolutes give you background information. They sort of set the stage for the next part of the sentence. So with the books having been burned, the students got in trouble. So it's background information. Paratiores comes from paro, parare, to prepare. The IOR in the middle is the comparative adjective. So more prepared. And then the ES is the actual case endings. Third declension. ACE can be nominative or accusative. So more prepared. Ad is our preposition. Ad is always followed by accusative. Omnia pericula sabunda is neuter, plural. And it's a gerundive of purpose. Now, gerundives are the ones we don't have in English, so you can't translate it literally. It really says, to all the dangers about to be undertaken. Okay, but we need a purpose, sort of purposey. That doesn't really sound good in English. So we would say, like, to undertake all of the dangers. But subeunda in reality is an adjective describing the dangers. They are dangers about to be undertaken. But you don't have to translate it that way, because there's just this lack of gerundive in English. Essent, okay, our verb. It's subjunctive, it's an infinitive, esse, plus an ending, imperfect. And it has to go all the way back up to that oot. That's our purpose. So that, with the hope of returning home having been destroyed, right, essent, they would be more prepared. And then we have our gerundive of purpose, to undertake the dangers, like all the dangers. So if they burn their crop, they can't come home, and they don't even have homes because they've burnt their homes. So with the hope of returning home having been destroyed, they'd be better prepared. They'd be more prepared to undergo all the dangers. Okay, I'll stop here and make another one for the rest of the chapter.